Hello and welcome to our second, but really our first Operations Hero Client Spotlight. My name is Joshua Peach with Operations Hero and Be Awesome and K-12 Pros. And this is meant to be informative, not about our software and the tools that we provide, which are great. And this is meant to be an informative webinar series that we're going to do, that we're going to spotlight our clients, so that people can start to really see the type of clients and institutions that we work with and all the awesome things that they're doing beyond the software. So they just happen to have chosen us as their software partner and work with us. But as you're going to see as the series continues, you're going to see some really incredible people. And no better than our first client in Wisconsin. I went and visited Pewaukee School District just outside of Milwaukee last July. John Stangler and his team hosted a custodial and maintenance leadership program that I was honored to speak at, and I get the full tour. And after I left, I said, "This guy, I've known John for a long time, but he and his team, we need to get them on board with us because we want to have just a small part in all the awesome that they're doing." So, John, welcome to the first client spotlight, first client spotlight webinar here. You're breaking the ice for us, so thanks for making some time in this. You got an ice storm going on right now.
We have a ice storm going on right now, so we're on a snow day or ice day or sleet day, wherever you want to call it.
Yep.
Yeah, the roads are not good anymore this afternoon, so the weather had been deteriorating as the day has progressed.
Hunker down.
Yes.
So before we get into the district, I think I know some of this, but tell us about what day was it that you woke up and you said, "You know what I want to do when I grow up? I want to be a facility director." Were you out in the kickball field? Was it second grade and you just said, "I want to do this"? How did you get into it?
You know what's really funny is, truth behold, I did not want to be in facility management, even in college. I was a sports management major at UW La Crosse, and I ended up getting an internship with the Minnesota Vikings. And, there's a variety of routes underneath sports management. One of those professional sports, another is, rec management, marketing, facility manager is one of those. But when I was during my undergrad, I wanted to be in professional sports. So I ended up going up and interning with Minnesota Vikings and going back to UW La Crosse to get a master's in sport administration. And then went back up and worked in the operations and public relations departments with the Minnesota Vikings. After having been with the Vikings for almost 2 years there within those two departments, I realized how difficult it was to move up in a professional sports franchise. Unless your last name was the same as a head coach or GM, good luck moving up fast. And people didn't leave. So you would really have to move and, uproot and go wherever you wanted to go in order to try and progress. And then an opportunity actually came about of where I was actually a seasonal employee. So there was an area district, a neighboring district to where I grew up, that I was a seasonal employee for about 6 or 7 summers in high school and college. And after, in 2007, the director at the time, they had just passed a $49.8 million referendum in that school district, and they needed an operations supervisor to come and take care of all the buildings and grounds stuff because the director wanted to focus more attention on the construction project. And he told me to apply. I interviewed and ended up moving back home. And next thing you know, I'm the number 2 in command for buildings and grounds for that school district for almost 5 years. And I think it was a conversation with that director, in between the interviews of like, he's like, "I know you can do this job," where you got some of that, strong encouragement that, like, "Oh, maybe I can do it." I mean, like, I knew I was qualified and capable of doing that job. It was just a matter of, kind of getting that push, someone to kind of push me over the hump of like, "No, you can do this job. You can do it well." So I ended up moving back near home and working for that neighboring district for almost 5 years. And then ended up coming to Pewaukee just about 12 years ago already. So just started my 12th year in Pewaukee as the director of buildings and grounds and safety coordinator for the school district. So was there really time that I growing up that I really wanted to be a facility director, I didn't know. There was times in college where I wanted to be a sports agent and then wanted to be a sports lawyer or, be involved in professional sports in some manner. But then after having been in that field, then I kind of quickly realized I'm like, it's very difficult to move up and it's very, very difficult to get to where I want to be. So I felt that facility management ended up being right up my alley, just because I've been able to, succeed and do well. But also, I think a lot of that comes down to, having that team approach and having the right people around you. Because a lot of that is just surrounding yourself with a great batch of people, but then also having, strong support from top to bottom, whether it be the school board, the superintendent, the assistant soup, the business manager. I mean, with their support, I'm able to be successful. Because if I didn't have their support and a nice budget every year, it'd be very difficult for allowing me to perform my job effectively.
Wow, I got to tell you, so I knew some of that, but I didn't know all of that. But when I see you, and I've watched you at WASBO and the Facility Masters Conference and the Security and Safety Conference that's just before the upcoming WASBO, which is we're in February of 2023. That you guys have I think it's WISCA, right? It's WISCA. Yep. And then WASBO. I've seen you walk those halls and those trade show floors and teach those courses. And if I didn't know any better, and you never told me that story, I would have said that you were born a facility director. Like you know your stuff, and you're wildly respected by your peers. And there isn't a program that is created that doesn't have John Stangler somewhere on it, telling and sharing the best practices. So that's pretty wild, the journey that you went on to get here. So you're coming in on 14 years. Pewaukee is a really cool district. I think you can agree with that. I told you when I walked in the door, you hadn't even given me the tour, and I was just blown away. Just the curb appeal, the pride of ownership. There was a book bus, I think, that was out in the parking lot. You've got this campus-like environment. And then as I walked through the campus, I was just, every step seemed like there was something else that was special. And the thing that I noticed the most is something that people probably don't get to see a lot of from you, because you work by you and your team is behind closed curtains and doors. You smile ear to ear. Like this is your space that you're proud of. So tell a little bit about the space, and I'd love for you to tell the what people see on a spreadsheet, and then what I'd like for you to do is pick like 2 or 3 really special pieces of the school, like spaces or projects or programs or something that you're really proud of, that you've either been a part of or be able to watch.
Okay. Well, just to kind of set the stage for Pewaukee School District, so it's about a half an hour west of Milwaukee. We got just over 602,000 square feet between our 4 buildings, and we're all on one campus. So it's all the schools are in one big U on our campus, and our district office is actually attached to the elementary school. We have about 400 staff members, just over 400 staff members, if you're including all the coaches and everybody else. And then we're at about 2970 ish for a total student enrollment for our school district. Just from a school district standpoint, I mean, really it's having a strong community, a strong backing, their support, the approval of 2 referendum projects since I've been there too, that have made so many just great improvements to our entire campus community, that, so many kids are going to benefit from going forward. As far as, from the school district standpoint, which projects I'm most proud of, I mean, there's quite the list. But I would say, just to pick 3, I mean, it's kind of
as many as you want.
Yeah, no, I can rattle off a bunch. It's just a matter of, but I would say, some of those simple things of like, I'll just start at the elementary school and kind of work my way up to the high school. At the elementary school, we're able to do a lot of remodeling. And one of those big things is just knocking out the lighting and switching everything over to LED. That was just huge in the last referendum, just focusing on some of those energy improvements, but, having some control. We have some, lighting controls that we have for 3 of the 4 buildings with that lighting upgrade. But then at that elementary school, we actually have themed 4K classrooms. So we have 6 themed classrooms that the classes will rotate between. So the 4K class will spend 3 weeks in the space room, and then they'll rotate to the weather room. And then the next 3 weeks, they'll go over to the zoo and safari room. And then they're going to go to the ocean room. And, so they rotate through. So between first and second semester, they actually flip flop. So they're used for one purpose, like say the construction room, and then it's flipped over to another classroom for the second semester. But these kids are able to just gain so much unique intentional play in the 4K classrooms that, it just really, it makes me want to go back to 4K.
Oh yeah. Well,
it's,
well,
it's
and I got to see that, not to interrupt, but I got to see
Yeah.
that. And one of the key things that I took away from that was it was everybody was involved in it. And correct me if
Yep.
I'm wrong, but the business manager made a massive excavator that doubles
Yep.
as a bookcase.
And a reading, a reading
Built-
loft. And that was just a great group project. It was part of the referendum project, but say we had our general contractor at the time, they're making a ramp, they're making a little silo, they're making, they're making a little tree, they're making all these different little items that, are added to the space that really add a unique dynamic to it. Our entire administrative team, during our leadership week, we actually painted all those classrooms. So we painted it, and then we had different, all these unique flooring designs and cuts and hard and soft surfaces throughout these areas. So it really was an entire great group project. The only kicker was initially can we do this in the time frame that we had? And
Right.
because we knew the lead time for the flooring materials was 20 weeks. So we're like, all right, we're sitting there in April and May. We're like, let's get it rolling. And we made everything else happen over the summer, and it turned out to be a great group effort. And I was happy to be a part of that. A couple of the other projects that I think are very unique and dynamic were just a lot of those safety improvements. I had like two slides of all the safety enhancements, improvements that we're able to make to our entire campus, each school, you name it, where you're just making the entire campus community safer. The whole layout, the whole general layout of where you pick up and drop off and bus traffic, we're able to improve that that entirely, and just have a better layout for school safety. You name it, bollards to ballistic films to just all assortment of items that we're able to add to our buildings, just from a safety enhancement standpoint, that were just tremendous assets. A bidirectional amplifier for first responders to, just the list goes on, but it was like,
what's a bidirectional amplifier?
Bidirectional amplifier, it's to assist first responders radios. So we have a couple of dead spots in 2 of our buildings where their radios would not work. So these bidirectional amplifiers are just to help amplify their system, so their signals are going to go out to their office or respective office.
Really cool.
So,
very cool.
But I'd say a lot of those safety enhancements are just huge, because we're able to kind of bring our district back up to speed. Not saying we're behind, but it's just a matter of, here's our perfect opportunity to make our entire school campus community safer and just better for everyone. I'd say a couple of the other ones were, like the stadium project, because that was early on in my tenure at Pewaukee, where that was like within the first year and a half, we're redoing our football and track stadium because our track was at its useful life. You know what? We have to replace our track. Let's switch over to turf. So we switched over to an artificial surface for our main football stadium, and it's used 6 to 7 times more often now than it was just with grass. There's other visible improvements, like say this last summer we just sanded down, repainted, and refinished our main gym floor at our high school. And with our huddle camera, you can see it when we stream everything on YouTube right now. So our YouTube channel, we're streaming. Well, right now we have some really successful sporting programs across the board in all seasons. Right now, we're in the heart of winter season. So like both of our basketball teams we're at state last year. The boys won state for the second year in a row last year, and the girls were at state and lost in the state finals. and both have a very good probability and to go back to their state championship, their state championships this year. But with a huddle camera, you're able to see the dynamic that we're able to do on our floor, just to enhance that experience. And then also we're trying to add student broadcasters, ended up being a couple more adult broadcasters this year. But so some of my connections behind the scenes where I'm like, hey, what do we need to do in order to pull off a full broadcast of our games? We started it during the football season a little bit, and then it's just kind of taken off during the basketball season. So, having a few connections with, sporting people behind the scenes where I was like, hey, what do we need to do in order to pull off a full, the full broadcast in order to broadcast this with the live stream? So those are some of the just quick hitters of projects that we had. We had a whole new STEAM innovation addition to our middle school. We're going to be doing a softball artificial surface stadium this summer with lighting. But I can't just name one, just because a lot of it is, involving the whole community and all the stakeholders. Because some of those items, yes, they've been on my long-term capital projects plan for a number of years, but the biggest thing was like, all right, trying to get us at its useful life, trying to make sure we're maximizing what's going to be used and who's going to benefit the most amount of people on a regular basis. So, because we don't want to, we want to have the correct criteria in order to making sure we're completing the right projects at the right time and making sure that, we're being good stewards of taxpayer money.
Yeah, no, you fell right into my trap, because that's what I wanted to do. I figured if you said just one, that there would be that this would get done really quick, and you just kind of went on and told a whole bunch of things. And it's, I think that it's just about everything that you're proud of with the district. One of the interesting things, the hard thing that I see in some schools, unfortunately, is a couple things. One, it's community buy-in, and then the other piece is they're only focused on safety and security measures when something happens, when it either hits the news or it hits them, unfortunately. And and I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. But what I've seen with you and what I just heard is like, that's right there front and center on your pride list. And it's a constant evolution of, hey, we need to be looking at this. I remember when you and I were talking and we looked at a couple of windows that I never would have thought would have needed a consideration for a ballistic glass, or any sort of, bullet resistant film or anything. And you're like, yeah, we put it here. And then I said, well, why would you do that? And you said, well, because, it was obvious that you either had someone do a study or based on your experience, you realize that was a risk factor of a window that otherwise people wouldn't know about. So I mean, there's a ton of those things that you do, but that's front and center on you. And that's a move, lack of a, bad pun, but that's a moving target, right? Because with every incident that happens, and you also have incidents that are not human related. You guys have these things called weather incidents like today that you have to be ready for, prepared for, and taken care of.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother thing where we ended up doing the whole storm ready designation. So I think we're the 7th school district in the state to acquire that designation. So we had our severe weather shelter is federally approved. And then we end up adding a whole section on weather to our safety plan, or, EOP, however you want to call it. So we had an entire whole safety bit. We do trainings in the fall and the spring, what to look for with all the coaches, playground supervisors, you name it. That's just another, another wrinkle that we ended up adding because we felt there's value in making sure that our areas were approved and federally approved by the National Weather Service, so we can handle any of those types of weather emergencies.
So, and that's an added responsibility for you in the district, because the worst thing that can happen is a storm happens and the generator doesn't work, or the safety measures that you needed to make this a safe space are not in place. And you guys willingly took that. One of the interesting things that I've always found, and why I'm always feel like I need to talk to John about some interesting stuff, is you always kind of have this mindset of, how do we do this? How do we make this happen? How do we, there's a lot of districts out there, and when it comes to me talking to school districts about our software, they don't have an open mind, or they're reluctant to change, or they it'll never get approved, or they've had this. I was with a facility director yesterday, and he was complaining a lot about the higher ups not knowing the work that they do. And I said, well, whose fault is that? Do you show them? Do you if you don't show them, they can't be expected to know it. Where does that mindset come from? Have you always had it? And for people that are listening to this, that are saying, oh, well, that's just John and Pewaukee, and they get everything, they get everything that they want or need because John smiles and says, I need this. I don't think it's that
I wish
easy.
that was the case.
Well, that's what
I'd say that's developed over time. There,
Yeah.
just because I'm doing it, I mean, I'm learning from everybody else just as like they're learning from me. So,
Yep.
I try to learn best practices from other districts. I'm going to take ideas and, hey, make them our own as we seem fit.
Mhm.
I think part of that is just having, making sure I'm showing the value in my department.
Yep.
Because if I'm not showing the value in my department and, communicating that on a regular basis, I mean, that's one of the first obstacles. So one, you have to have the district support from up above that, they're supporting their facilities department. I could tell a lot of districts how much they value the facilities department if they have a web page
Mhm.
that's designated towards facility management.
Bingo.
I could go on their web page, and if I don't see anything regarding buildings or grounds, facilities, or anything like that, I'm like, I can say right then and there, they already don't value their department. So part of it is, yes, you have to get out there. You have to talk, you have to communicate, but also be able to talk to the board members. Be able to talk, I have to be able to talk to everybody at every level. So, but I think the biggest thing is that those skills, like the whole growth mindset, being 1% better every day. I mean, some of those things are just developed over time.
Mhm.
Like even there's a Wally's Astro Leadership Academy that the WASPO organization offers. And I went through that. Oh, sorry, my
It's all right.
my A team.
Yeah.
One of my guys is calling. And again, one of my guys, like they're my A team. So they had literally had me. Then that wasn't scripted by any means, but he has the A team ringtone. So,
Well, if you need to answer
but
that, we can pause this.
no, it's okay. I can text it back in a couple minutes here. So I think I know what it'll be about, or he'll file.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that's just, it really is developed because, like I was just talking about the academy where, there's a lot of, processes and skills that you're going to develop over time that you have to master. Will you master them all? No. I mean, in my position, I kind of have to be a jack of all trades. And if I'm a master in some of them, great. But I have to know a lot of stuff about a lot of things, and I have to be able to communicate that to people on a regular basis. And you're saying some of those skills, I'm like, it's just developed over time. I'd say I go back to a lot of my experiences, a lot of, prior employers, and, just even what I do on the side where it's just, it takes time. I mean, yes, the experience is great, but at the same point, it isn't everything. So part of it's experience, part of it's growing up, part of it's going to school, part of it's, having that mindset though, where I want to learn. I'm always eager to learn and, know what those best practices are and how I can implement those in our district. And a lot of times it comes back to me where it's the process. So if I can develop strong systems and processes, a lot of the other stuff will fall right into place. But if I have a weak process or a weak system and a system in place, well, it's going to fail, just because I don't have a strong enough process or system in place.
Um, your job as a facility director, seeing that you started in 2007. Did I have the right number?
Yep.
I mean, it has evolved a lot, right? Your to-do list, and it's not your to-do list of like the same tasks, your to-do list of new tasks, smart lighting, smart cleaning, smart maintaining, smart PM, everything smart has extended a lot. Now, our software aside, because we already know that you think that's one of the greatest decisions you've made in the last couple of years. What are there any other products, services, or processes out there that have just blown you away in the last year that have improved you and your team's work, whether it's become more efficient. It's just I mean, and we're talking COVID, right? COVID exposed a ton of new technology and products that some are going to sustain and still be here. It's maybe because you bought a bunch of it, and some of them are just better practices. And that could be just, better cleaning. Like, is there anything that stands out? And don't worry about, you can say the company, the product, if you're proud of it, go for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, in the last year and a half, 2 years, I wouldn't say there's a whole lot of new software other than, like, say, the Operations Hero that's really impacted or helped us.
Or this could be lighting, this could be a cleaning product, whatever.
Well, and we're in a big data driven district. So, we've incorporated a lot of other systems in the past, but going back to, I can't remember what year it was that we started the one-to-one laptop initiative. And then you get to COVID, and next thing you know, we have a device for everybody from second grade up that they could take home. Okay, so like now, one of those big obstacles, and then able to start virtual learning. So technically today isn't a snow day. Technically it's a snow day for me, but now it's still working. But for the students, it's actually a virtual day. So they actually just switched to virtual learning. So we already had those teachers and the principals prepare for, hey, we might have, inclement weather tomorrow, and here's, sending home packets, sending home information where they could do asynchronous or synchronous, virtual learning. So high school, middle school, they're doing full virtual learning days. So like just moving that dynamic to, unfortunately it's the death of a snow day, but in actuality, it's like, nope, it's a virtual day.
But it counts as one of the 180. It counts as one of the necessary 180. So they're not going up against.
And
July.
we're to minutes now. It used to be days, now we're to minutes, but still it counts against those minutes where, do you really want to make up all those days in June, or do you want to, get out of the school year a little earlier? So, but I'd say, like, even from the Operations Hero standpoint, what we can bridge with our systems, like, we're a Google district. So we have a whole Google suite. We utilize it quite well, and there's a lot of crazy dynamics on that system, but just the ease for all of our stakeholders, students technically can put in work order too, but having that domain with our Google suite where it's so easy to log into Operations Hero, literally click on a link, log in on Google, select your email address, I'm in. And you look at how you can maximize the impact on the school community and just making things happen, where it's like, all right, it's a 4-step process. It is a very simplified process for anyone to put in a request for a work order and or event setup. And I think that's one of those biggest dynamics where you want to make it easy, but safe, because we have to deal with all the virtual, and all those crazy threats. So like having the 2-factor authentication with Google, I mean, it's just, it made such a seamless and natural transition, switching over to Operations Hero, because it made it so much easier for my people to put in work orders, and for all staff, and then also for my technician to complete it. Because that's a very simplified, easy platform to learn, but then also utilize on a regular basis. So that's a nice thing I've witnessed in 4 or 5 months now, where we're always looking for those data-driven solutions that are going to help us out.
Yeah. Well, that's that you hit the nail on the head with the importance, and it's not just your work orders, it's everything that you need to make these. When does it make sense for us to evaluate or look at a one-to-one initiative or something like that? They have to get all these data points, and I mean, thankfully the people that did it before COVID ended up ahead of the curve, but they did a lot of work behind the scenes to do that. What are some from a facility director standpoint, what are some key data points that you like to have in front of you? I know you're a statistician. We didn't talk about this, but you're a stats guy, right? I didn't mention that you worked at for the Vikings, and you live in Wisconsin, and I don't know that they're Vikings fans in Wisconsin. Is that allowed?
There's a few. If you get to the Northwest, you're going to see a lot of Vikings fans.
Okay.
And I gotta remember, I grew up in Wisconsin, and I am a Packers owner, so I do have a stock in the Packers.
Okay.
I'm a Packers
Okay.
owner.
Okay.
As far as data points go, I mean, it really just depends what problem we're trying to solve.
Hmm.
As far as like say the work orders, just we're tracking what's scheduled, what we're doing preventive maintenance wise, and also that turnaround time. So how
Yeah.
quickly are we solving, the issues that our staff are having? There's a lot of those energy management ones. We're really watching our peak demand, watching our kilowatt usage and our peaks,
Hmm.
just because our energy bills now in Wisconsin are 50% of our monthly bills are just based upon peak
Hmm.
demand for the month, peak demand for the year. So we're really trying to watch energy management stuff. Those, the employee engagement ones are always important. Making sure we're hitting the right notes within our district, and then, like say, we have some district services surveys that we provide to, timeliness to efficiency, you name it, within our administrative team. Some staffing. There's safety and security ones. There's some other Studer ones that we do. There's the facility scheduling, facility usage. That's always important. Visitor management, transportation. Those are some of those key ones. But I mean, really, it just depends what problem we're trying to solve.
Right.
Am I just tracking data for the sake of tracking data? Of course not.
Yeah.
But if there's something that, hey, you know what, I can create another efficiency within my department that's going to free up some budget for another improvement, great. We're all for it. So it's really looking into, what problem we're trying to solve and trying to operationalize it the best we can. But at the same point, track the right rate data points so
Yeah.
we can continue to be, just continue to operate at a high level.
Well, I think you hit the one that I always say is key. Well, there's two that I say is key, but from a client service perspective, it was one of the first that you said, which is what is that open to complete? From the second that we get the
Yep.
ping that someone is reporting something is wrong, how long does it take us to address it? And it's not complete with the address. And I think that that's something that people often think about is that end result. Like, how do we get from open to close complete and it's done? And I think you need to know from the time that it's open to the time that it's addressed, because I think you'll agree with me, especially with supply chain issues. I mean,
Yeah.
these kids with the TikTok videos, I'm guessing they didn't do it in Pewaukee where they were destroying bathrooms, but in other parts of the country, there was a lot of
Everywhere.
bathrooms. Yeah, well, yeah, I didn't
Everywhere.
want to
We got
say,
some of that
uh,
too.
yeah,
We had some of
but
that too. So we're not
bathroom
immune,
partition.
again, we're dealing with all the same
Yeah,
issues everybody else is dealing with.
that well, I don't want to throw it out there, but until you told me, but yeah, everybody had it, but bathroom partitions are hard to find sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So, someone puts in a ticket and says, bathroom partition destroyed. Well, how long did it take you to actually go out, check off that it's destroyed, put the order in, and let that client know, customer, if you will, we call them clients, stakeholder, whoever it might
Yeah.
be, that it is being addressed and there's parts on order, and we'll get to it as soon as we can.
Well, you also
That's
mentioned that checking in, letting them know.
yeah.
Because like that's one of the simplest things of like, all right, just putting a note in there, like it was ordered on this date, we're expecting around this time frame. So
Yeah.
at least we can give them an update so they know, because yeah, they're gonna keep bugging us. And like I had a window that cracked with the cold weather a couple weeks ago, and she's like, hey, what's the status on this? And I'm like, well, if you actually looked in the work order, I put it in there. I was like, hey, we're waiting about 2 to 4 weeks, and it'll get taken care of. But all right, glass is 2 to 4 weeks. And but I'd say one of those key things is checking in with them, letting them know. It's the same thing if we have an HVAC concern. We try to do our best to check in with them and let them know, like, hey, we're aware of your issue. We're working
Mhm.
on it. You know what? We're having an issue with this valve, or we try to do our best to, follow up from the customer service standpoint to be
Mhm.
there and help answer their questions or take care of their concerns.
Mhm.
Do I always, do they always love what they're going to hear come out of my mouth? Of course not.
Mhm.
Because sometimes I have to be the bearer of bad news. I'm like, sorry, it's going to be 6 weeks, or it might be 8 weeks,
Yeah.
or we're waiting apart, and hey, the manufacturer or the supplier doesn't have it, or whatever it may be. And or a lot of times it's I'm sorry, I won't be able to do anything. I'm going to have to drain the line in order to take care of that pipe or that valve. I mean, I'm gonna have to wait for the next break, like so the
Yeah.
next non-school day, or hey, you know what? I'm going to take care of it, but it's going to be over spring break. So I'm sorry, it's going to have to wait till then, because I need no one in the building, or, very few people in the building in order to shut the water off or shut the power
Yeah.
off, whatever it may be.
It's funny, as you're saying this and you're talking about difficult conversations, and your client is me potentially, right? And I don't know, behind me is my thermostat. Well, if that thing if it says 68 and it's showing 65 and nothing's happening, the typical person doesn't know that that could be a myriad of about 100 different things. And
Yeah.
I was just in a school district recently, and they had a wall panel. It was probably 8 feet by 6 feet, and it had a thermostat, and then it had the cabling that went to the equipment that did the HVAC and all the different pieces in it. And they used it for training and troubleshooting to plan, if this happens, then this.
Yep.
And I said, you guys should do a little video that says when the thing clicks, when the thermostat clicks to go on and it doesn't go on, you should do a little video that shows all of the moving pieces, and you have to track down which one's not moving to get it fixed, because there's a lot to, when we talk about HVAC, there's a lot to just about nothing's easy, right? There's very few. There's a clogged toilet is not always easy, because there could be a bigger problem there, right? So
well, and even going to the HVAC things, it's, communicated to the end user of like, I don't physically have to go into your room to know it's too cold or too warm. I can see that, and explaining the direct digital controls and, hey, our building automation system, I can see exactly what the temperature is in your space, and it's not to be mean, but it's just like, oh, you haven't checked on it. I'm like, no, they've been working on it for the last 6 hours.
Right.
But, again, that's us letting her know, like, we're on it, we're working on it, and we don't have to physically be in your space in order to check the temperature. Because they're thinking like, oh, we need to come and check out the space. I'm like, well, no, they might be checking the VAV in the hallway. They may be checking, like you said, it could be a multitude of things. So, again,
you can see fan speed from your computer 100 miles away. Yeah. No, that is cool stuff. Well, here's a question for you. If you had a crystal ball, what would your crystal ball tell you about what schools would look like in 5-10 years? What are things that you might see? Is there anything that you see on the horizon that is going to be a game changer, either in technology of a district, making you be able to we've got this chat GPT that everybody's talking about, the AI tool,
artificial intelligence. I tell you, it's just a matter of time, and we already have the robots. Well, we don't have them, but there's robot scrubbers, vacuums that we see all over at large venues like Mall of America. They have multiple just auto scrubbers that are self-controlled and not robot driven, but AI driven. So I foresee that AI being a whole new dynamic. I think it could really be effective from the HVAC standpoint, because it would be awesome just to have code written in the building automation system, like, what, bam, it automatically reaches this temp. There's some of those controls already, but like I see some of the artificial intelligence automatically taking over, and like, oh, it got to this level, it got to this temperature, bam, we're gonna economize and open up our dampers to this level. Just some of the artificial intelligence that can really it'll benefit, and I don't think it'll hinder us. It's just a matter of how do we embrace it and utilize it for good. You already see some of those artificial intelligence items. We've had a couple of our administrators down at the One Tech conference in Texas, and they brought back a multitude of things. And the people that are not going to embrace it are not going to realize how important it and how beneficial it can be. Because I think we need to embrace some of the artificial intelligence and some of the AI, just to where can it help us the most? And also just, it's not to replace people. It's more of how can we just make some of these things natural and automated, where, we don't have to sit here and check it on a regular basis. It's automatically going to do it itself. Or, hey, I automatically need this monthly report. It's automatically going to generate it for me. I don't even have to go in an Excel document. It's already, set up, and I'm automatically going to just receive it in my inbox every month or every week or whatever I want. So I think that AI is really going to, I don't think it'll take off that fast in like
Mhm.
facilities management, just because, there's some of those items that you still need that face to face. You still need that interpersonal communication
Mhm.
skill for. Where will it will it be replaced in the future sometime? Maybe, but I see that being, critical, where we still need that human side of it. We need some of those human skills handling all the day-to-day stuff in schools. I mean, I don't, to not have a custodian there during the day, I mean, it's just not going to happen. So,
Yeah, well,
I mean,
that's
from a
you hit
staffing, I
it.
mean, yeah,
Yeah, you hit it right there because I've been looking at I think it's Boston Dynamics, Spot the dog. I don't know. I think his name is Spot. It's a robotic dog. If you've seen it, they have an add-on feature that puts like 150 cameras on him, and he can walk a space and actually do a condition assessment, scanning the
nice.
space, and it can acknowledge and see what's there, determine its lifespan and everything else. But at the end of the day, and this is funny because I follow a gentleman by the name of Marcus Sheridan, who's an expert in marketing and sales, and he talked about ChatGPT the other day, and he talked about how people in marketing should be terrified, and they should. I've put together some really wild and
Yep.
amazing blogs, and I put an article together with the help of ChatGPT that would have taken me probably days, and I did it in under an hour. And
Yep.
the AI tool took only a minute to generate their version of what I wanted to put, and then
Yep.
I put my flavor to it. And what Marcus said the other day was that there's going to be there should be, he predicts, a flood of blue collar workers because of all these people that have talents and skill sets that the technology is going to take the place of, that they're
Yep.
going to need to be skilled laborers. And what you said, we could have AI, we could have robotic scrubbers, we could have robotic window washers and everything else. You're still going to be understaffed. There is plenty of
Yep.
work to be done in the M&O department, that needs human hands doing the
Yep.
work. So
Well, and that
no.
continuous support. We need that, we need to continue to help ourselves out, and making sure our budgets are staying relatively strong and not getting cut all the time. It's
Mhm.
like, all right, we can cut, but all right, if things start falling apart, the building starts falling apart, they're gonna be like, oh, why aren't you guys doing it? I'm like, well, we have to make sure we're showing the benefit of our departments
Mhm.
and our maintenance operations, and making sure that that's happening on a regular basis. And we got to do that every year. I mean, we
Yeah.
can't just do it one time and, oh, hey, you know what? It's going to be great for the next 20 years. I'm like, nope,
Yeah.
it's a continued effort. It's that continued group project that we're always working on. And really it's our adjusting and prioritizing that will, help it or foster it to continue and be rock solid.
Yeah. The translation for that, anyway, once again, the facilities world, if you want to get into facilities management in schools and you think it's set it and forget it, forget applying, because it is anything but today. It is an evolution. It is a constant evaluation, review, and better management of what funds you get and what you do with them. So that's some good points there. um Let's see. I think I think we covered everything and then some. Did I miss anything that you wanted to share, spotlight, or talk about? You guys, by the way, it's completely off topic, but Pewaukee, when you talked about your facility, the facility department having a web page, what you guys do for your district for social media and public outreach, and positive sharing. I follow everything. I follow everything like I'm a resident. I don't do Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff, but I follow Pewaukee Schools because you are constantly, I don't know if it was a teacher student basketball game, but there was adults versus kids. There was a
Hoops
big,
night, a PTO,
yeah.
hoops night, and actually the business assistant superintendent and myself were the referees for that event. Our superintendent was the MC.
Yeah.
Our athletic director was the scorekeeper. We had this, PLE and Horizon face each other, high school and middle school faced each other, and then, youth basketball, youth cheerleading,
Yeah.
POMs, all of these different groups are all coming in. So it's just like a great community, just a great community event. So
Yeah.
like that was, just one event that was put on last Friday. So, there's a lot of great things that are happening in multiple districts, but do you have a marketing or a public relations person that's highlighting all those? Again, those are all like awesome success stories, but that's a group effort because she's always asking Miranda, God's like, and I'll gladly give her kudos. She does a
Mhm.
phenomenal job with, what we're doing, on
Yep.
Instagram, you name it, all of our social media for that matter. But she's also asking like, what's happening in your school? I want to know.
Right.
I want to take pictures. So if we're not communicating those highlights and like same thing, we, like I was talking about redoing that gym for this last summer. Well,
Yeah.
I was able to post a security video and I had her do a whole time lapse. It ended up
Yeah.
being like a minute long time lapse. And actually, I think I have it linked on my webpage too. I have to make sure it's up there otherwise. From my well, in September, I did my campus improvements report and I had that time lapse as the beginning. And it was just
Yeah.
she threw it together in maybe a half an hour.
Yeah.
Just a quick time lapse of one of my, summer campus improvements. And it's just like, but again, it's us all working together in order to highlight all those great things that are happening. Because
Yeah.
that's the crazy part. There's so many awesome things happening in buildings and grounds, IT, student services, you name it. All of those departments and all of all of us, we're all part of that big wheel.
Yeah.
And you know what? If one of those cogs in the wheel aren't performing or working or communicating, hey, you know what? It's going to stop that wheel from turning. So I mean, we really want to be, we try to be state of the art. We try to be cutting edge. You name it, whatever it be. But we're just trying to be the best version of ourselves, but also try to highlight everything that all the awesome things that are happening in our schools.
Yeah.
Because we want everybody to be able to send their kids to Pewaukee. And obviously, we can't take all the open enrollments, but it's a lottery system for open enrollments as it is.
Mhm.
But we just want to be the best district we can be. I mean, yeah, it's great to have all these rankings and whatever else, this rating, that rating, or yeah, great. But are we chasing that? No. I'm just trying to, I'm trying to chase of like, hey, you know what? I want the best school and learning environment for my kids because my kids are going to, the school where the school district I'm at. So it's, part of it's just putting it right back into the district and making sure that we're just a high functioning unit. And yeah, everyone wants to send their kids to school here because we're doing a lot of awesome things. Great.
Yeah. Well, but what you're also doing as a byproduct of that, and I'm sure you guys know this, is you're setting the bar of what's possible. So the
Yeah.
districts around you are looking and going, well, how the heck is Pewaukee doing that? Why aren't we doing this? Because I can tell you, a lot of school districts, the only thing they're sharing on social media is their varsity sports. And I'm all about varsity sports, but there's a lot more to it. There's science programs, robotics programs. There's just
Yep.
walking the halls. That floor, I did see that time lapse of that floor. I was like, wow, that is really cool. And what that also does is it's outreach, unintentional or intentional outreach to people to know what a great district Pewaukee is to work at,
Mhm.
and that's, I tell people all the time, the work that you do, no one gets into this. I mean, you didn't get into this for the money. You got into this with pride. You got into this with, originally you said, I moved back home, for your first job. Like you want to make a difference. And then once you see, and I tell people all the time, you should have all of your hires on commencement day, or you should have all of your hires on the first day of school, and they're getting their access card should be in a kindergarten classroom, because those are two
Yeah.
things that everyone should see. They should see 15 minutes. And if you're having a bad day, go to the kindergarten class and go to see those kids. And then when commencement happens, you should be there and see those kids graduating and going into adulthood and the next stage of their life and becoming, functioning, tax-paying, responsible adults in our community. And you were a big part of that. And that's pretty cool. So you guys do it. Hats off to Miranda. Please give her
Yeah.
props
Oh
for
yeah.
me, because
No
I
doubt.
talk about that all the time. As a matter of fact, I might just start putting slides in my presentations on the great work that you guys are doing, because
Yeah.
you're knocking it out of the park. So
One more thing I
um,
would like to add was just the professional development piece.
yeah.
Being a continuous supporter of professional development for all departments, and especially for the facilities department. Obviously, I'm putting in my pipe for
Mhm.
the WASCO facility certification program, but then also our WISCA, which is the Wisconsin School Safety Coordinators Association,
Mhm.
their coordinators program. because again, that's, those are skills that are developed over time, and, valuing that professional development, because we always need to stay on the top of our game.
Yeah.
If we're not attending these conferences, we're not knowing what's the latest and greatest, it's very difficult for us to make progress in our department. So we really need to, show the value of that professional development, and also making sure we're sending people to receive the professional development. So,
Yeah.
whether it be my groundskeeper or my maintenance or whatever it be, to customize that. It's almost a customized professional development plan where, all right, it's a little bit different for every person, but just spending that time, because you know what, it's just that karma piece. It's going to help you down the road. And the more you can train them, and who is it? What's his name with Virgin Atlantic or
Yeah.
the airlines? He's like train
Richard
people.
Branson.
Yeah, Richard Branson. Sorry, I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember names right offhand here. Train people well enough they're going to want to leave. Treat them well enough they're never going to want to leave.
Yeah.
It's something along that line where that was a quote, and I'm like, that's kind of a little bit of the model of what I do in my department too, where I'm like, I don't have a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
Because people don't want. I'm like, yeah, I don't want them to leave. I mean, I want to keep the best people and the best and brightest. And yes, from the operations supervisor position, I've been able to help train the next batch of facility directors. But part of that is just those next steps in your leadership journey from a professional development standpoint that are critical for success.
Yeah.
Each of those operations supervisors leave the district in a better place than they found it, and they're going to make us better as a whole. But at the same point, I feel, upon myself to produce those next batch of, directors of buildings and grounds and facility directors, because you know what, we need to continue to benefit and making sure that we have quality people in these positions. We can't just throw Joel, this guy in there because he's been here for 30 years. I'm like, yeah, hey, he might be a very valuable employee, but we need to have the right fits to match the skill sets that are required to be a facility director nowadays. As you're saying, it's changed over time. It used to be a little bit less. Now it's a little bit more involved, and you need to have some unique skill sets in order to be as effective as you can be in this position.
Yeah. No, and it's Richard Branson didn't say this. I don't know who did, so I'm going to say that I stole it from somewhere. But the other saying is, what if we train them and they leave? And then the response is, what if we don't and they stay? And that's a key piece. And what you do find is, if you empower your team, you give them the opportunity to grow, you provide them with the professional development that they either ask for or that you believe they need, they will stay. You will have a low turnover. And the great point on that is, you're right. If your groundskeeper, or if you or your superintendent, or anyone for that matter, there's only one of you in Pewaukee. It's not like a corporation that has 50 of the same or something. You're the only one. You're on the island of Pewaukee. If you don't get out and get that professional development, and I just know from our couple of months here working together, as you being a client, that you constantly are getting people that call and say, hey, what are you doing with this? What are you using for software? And people are calling based on the network that you've built and the trust that you have with your peers. So I'm a huge advocate, proponent, and believer in what WASBO is doing with all of their conferences, which they put on a ton. So for those that are listening, watching, ASBO is the Association of School Business Officials, their state and regionals as well. In Wisconsin, ASBO is top-notch, gold standard, puts on multiple events in a year. They put on the Midwest Facility Masters Conference every year in the fall, which is a collection of 6 states in the Midwest coming together in Wisconsin Dells to share best practices, be with your peers, learn from one another, and best-in-class vendors are there with them to show what products and services they have. So absolutely a great point and great way to close this out. John, I can't thank you enough for being our first break-in client spotlight and sharing you and your district and all the awesome you're doing and the pride of ownership that you have in the district. The Operations Hero team is by your side here, moving forward, as we always will be, regardless of where we are or what we are. But we are just so honored that you got to be our first client in Wisconsin, and you're really paving the path for many others, sharing things that we can improve on or that we're doing real well with. So appreciate you being the Wisconsin trailblazer for us.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for having me. I don't mind at all. And really it's not necessarily about being the first. It's just a matter of like, hey, what can we do together to have an impact?
Yeah, well, you saw it. I saw it and you saw it, and we came together, and this is working great. And we really appreciate all that you're doing, not just for your district. Like I say, you're raising the bar for Pewaukee and you're raising the bar for others. And there are schools out there that aren't saying, oh, that's just Pewaukee. There's schools out there saying, how do we do like Pewaukee, or how can we even improve off of what Pewaukee is doing? So keep up the awesome work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That'll do this for our first episode, webinar, whatever you want to call it. There's so many different things in the world today, but this is just going to be a video available on the Operations Hero YouTube page. And what we're going to do at least one of these a month. If you are a client, one of our 500 successful clients in the United States or Canada, we would love to have you on if you'd like to share your story and talk about who you are and what you do. We want, from a company standpoint, we want to share your stories so other schools can understand and know the types of clients that we get the opportunity to take care of, work with, partner with, and provide services and solutions to. And hopefully you're one of them. So if you want to get a hold of us, please feel free to get a hold of me, Josh at operationshero.com. I'm more than happy to get you started on the path to explore what we do and how we do it and how it might fit. And if you want, you've got a client reference right here, John Stangler. I'm sure he wouldn't mind talking to you and giving you his contact information. Should you need it, just send me a note and I'll take care of it. But we'll look forward to having our next episode real soon and sharing that with you. And in the meantime, keep doing all the great work you're doing, John. And thanks for joining us on this webinar.
You're welcome.